But I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Well, good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Now, tonight, we're going to get weird as we usually do. Shout out Shane in the chat. Said it's time to get weird. Indeed, it's Troubled Minds time, 100%. There's an old theory that's been running around for a long time, sort of the synchro-mystic aspect of this. Shout out to the great Chris Knowles out there. And it's regarding Gene Roddenberry and the Council of Nine channeling that goes back to the 70s and beyond, actually. And some really notable people have been involved in it, and it traces back even to ancient Egypt. And it's a wild thing. It's a wild tale. And before I get started, I just want to point out that this is standing on the shoulders of giants. There's a lot here that we haven't touched on in the past because this is basically other people's work. This is, again, this is thesecretsun.blogspot.com. Links in the description. Do check it out. This was an actual synchro-mystic conjuring, okay, of putting pieces together back in December 11th, 2007. But I think times have changed enough now to kind of look at this in a little bit of a different way. We're going to look at Gene Roddenberry, the Council of Nine, this weird channeling session, and then some of the other data points that maybe didn't get added to this or maybe are starting to become apparent because of, well, the time we're in. We talk about artificial intelligence a lot. And it seems if you go back to some of that old Star Trek in the old days, including, of course, we're going to talk about the Star Trek first motion picture that released in 1979 with Kirk and Spock and all your favorites, Bones and all the rest. But there's a weird angle to it that, because I was a baby, basically. I was a toddler when that came out. So it's one of those things where when you circle back and you start to see some of these things, you scratch your head now and wonder, like, what the hell was actually going on? It's incredibly far ahead of its time. And not only that, it's prescient for what's going on right now in the moment. I mean, if you look at the tech billionaires building, golems for the souls of digital entities or something. I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to look at this, and it is, I don't know, I wouldn't call it doom. You know me, I'm a glass half full type of guy, as white pilled as possible, not trying to say the end is here and all the rest of that stuff. I think, we've got reasons to be concerned, I believe, but I don't think it's anything we can't overcome. And we haven't been here before in this moment. But anyway, so back to this. Now, there's this actual, back in that movie, the original Star Trek, and the links are in the description if you want to check out the actual YouTube part of this, because it's super good, the actual scene itself. What I've done is I've taken the scene and stripped out all the music and just got the dialogue from this one particular scene where they're drawing in this, or they're actually investigating Voyager. It's Voyager 6 that has returned from its long journey, and it's looking for its creators, which is, of course, us. The humans made Voyager 6 and sent it out into the cosmos. And again, so links are in the description. And if you guys remember the artwork, this is what it looked like. Star Trek, the motion picture. Remember the rainbow thing? And they had the weird, the weird character in the end talking about Voyager. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in just a second. I'll play the clips. It's absolutely wild to consider here. But even more wild is this. Let me read some of this from the actual, if I can find it. One moment, please. Okay, that's not what I want at all. Yeah, super awesome. Okay, give me just a second, and I'll get onto this. But okay, so that's the deal. We're gonna play some clips from this and talk about this in the larger context of what it means today. And because again, shout out the great Chris Knowles, the Secret Sun blog. He did this back in 2007, but I think a lot has changed, and a lot of sort of data points have come out regarding not just the idea of this Council of Nine, but also, well, new stuff, new Star Trek stuff, obviously, since then. But anyway, so here's the version of this. So in the early 1950s, Andrija Puharich, a parapsychologist with ties to the U.S. Army and CIA during the MK Ultra era, assembled a group called the Round Table Federation in Glen Cove, Maine. The membership read like a social register. Alice Astor Bouverie, I don't know these people. Marcelo DuPont, of course, I know that one. Arthur Young, the founder of Bell Helicopter, and his wife, Ruth Forbes Payne Young, among others. On New Year's Eve 1952, working with an Indian channeler named Dr. D.G. Vinod, V-I-N-O-D, the group made contact with an intelligence calling itself the Nine. Entities who declared themselves the 9 creator gods behind the ancient Egyptian Ennead, I think is how you say that. Anyway, links are in the description if you want to read up and follow up on me on all this stuff, just to make sure and keep me on the straight and narrow here. But anyway, 9 entities. So the Pantheon of Heliopolis. We're talking Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys, and sometimes Horus. Okay, and so they channeled this supposedly again back in the 50s, 1952. And they were contacted by this group of entities, sort of a council, okay, which has now become known in modern parlance when the conspiracy world starts talking about the Council of Nine. At least in modern days, it traces back to this channeling session, which Gene Roddenberry ends up kind of intertwined with. So anyway, so contact was interrupted from the 52 session, but for years, but resumed in the early 70s when Puharich, the original there, linked up with Uri Geller, we've heard that name before, and later with psychic medium Phyllis Schlemmer. Now that's the individual in question that did much of the channeling for the Star Trek, that the series and the rest of this stuff that they based all of this on. And she's the main psychic when you look this stuff up. And once again, links will be in the description down below if you guys want to look into this. I do encourage you to, because it's fascinating as hell. But there's a really weird part of this. Well, there's a bunch of weird parts of this. And here you go. Phyllis V. Schlemmer, an author, a psychic, all the rest of these things. Anyway, so, okay. So Phyllis Schlemmer became the primary channel for the Nine. They set up Lab 9 at Puharich's estate in Ossining, New York, pardon my French today, attracting wealthy backers, including members of the Canadian Bronfman family. Man, my pronunciation is out the window tonight. European nobility, Stanford Research Institute scientists, and political figures close to the Gerald Ford White House. That doesn't seem weird at all, does it? But anyway, in early 1975, Gene Roddenberry enters the picture. He was broke and depressed. The original Star Trek had been canceled. His subsequent projects, Genesis 2, the Quester tapes, Pretty Maids All in a Row, had all failed. He was approached by Sir John Whitmore, a British former racing driver and Lab 9 associate, who paid Roddenberry $25,000 to write a screenplay about the Nine's imminent landing on Earth. Oh. Yeah, put that in your back pocket. We'll get back to that. Whitmore flew Roddenberry to the Ossining estate, where he met and interviewed psychics attending channeling sessions and asked questions directly of Tom, the spokesman for the Council of Nine, because of course, right, 9 voices at the same time would just be a cacophony of nonsense. So you have to have a spokesperson. Well, he named himself Tom in the channeling sessions. Anyway, so these sessions are a matter of record. Roddenberry is mentioned by name in the transcripts compiled in Schlemmer's 1993 book, The Only Planet of Choice, Essential Briefings from Deep Space. Now, as usual, there's a lot of questions that come with this, because how do you feel about channeling? Do you think it's real? You think it's something we can do? You think it's nonsense? Do you think this is information seeded from some other place to really get into these ideas? I don't know. As usual, you know me, radically agnostic as much as possible to kind of consider all the things. Maybe it's phony. Maybe it's people just making up stories. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's some real aspect to this. And that's where the conversation lies, to be perfectly honest. And if you're not new, you know exactly that's the case. But let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor. In this case, we'll go to the, oops, not that one. Not that one at all. Not that one. That's a good song, though, but no, not that one. Let's go to the Stoic Mindset. Be right back. 1 minute, more Troubled Minds coming up. See you in exactly 1 minute.
Feeling stressed? Overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset and let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon.
Okay, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Now, we pick up here at Star Trek: The Motion Picture, okay? It's a 1979 American science fiction film. Many of us have seen this a long time ago. The motion picture is based on stars and cast of the 1966 to 1969 television series Star Trek. Of course, we've probably all seen that, by Gene Roddenberry, who serves as producer. In the film, set in the 2270s, a mysterious and powerful alien cloud known as V'ger approaches Earth, destroying everything in its path. Admiral James T. Kirk, of course, one William Shatner, assumes command of the recently refitted Starship Enterprise to lead it on a mission to determine V'ger's origins and save the planet. Now, I trimmed out part of this, and it's important to hear this, so hang tight, James, we'll get to you momentarily. I want to play this so we set the stage in what we're talking about tonight. But there's this one scene at the end of this particular movie, all right, where they're actually investigating what this thing might be and communicating with this alien liaison and V'ger itself. Okay, so let me just play this, just 4 short clips. I'll kind of fill in some of the gaps here, but it's enlightening. I thought this was fascinating to kind of go back down memory lane and look at some of this stuff and then reframe it in a 2026 way, kind of like we do always on Troubled Minds. Here you go. Listen to this. This is from near the end of that movie, but they're actually investigating what this cloud is, what this actual entity named V'ger is, and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Here you go. Part 1, action. It'll take a second, but here we go.
V-G-E-R. Feature. V-O-Y-A-G-E-R. Voyager. Voyager 6.
NASA. National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Jim. This was launched more than 300 years ago.
Voyager 6. Designed to collect data and transmit it back to Earth.
Captain. Voyager 6 disappeared to what they used to call a black hole.
It must have emerged on the far side of the galaxy and fell into the machine planet's gravitational field.
The machine inhabitants found it to be one of their own kind. Primitive, yet kindred.
Okay, so Voyager 6 launched 300 years prior, again in 2270, and this actually disappeared. It fell into what was back then called a black hole. But now, of course, we're Star Trek, the post-singularity space, which is an interesting way to look at Star Trek these days as we approach the actual singularity, whatever that looks like technologically. But in this particular case, they've recognized these things as possible wormholes or whatever else, right? So this old Voyager 6 tumbled into this black hole, the old vernacular, and then it's back. And not only is it back, it's back looking for the people that built it, its creators, okay? Part 2, here we go.
They discovered a simple 20th century programming. Collect all data possible.
Learn all that is learnable. Return that information to its creator.
Precisely, Mr. Decker. The machines interpreted it literally. They built this entire vessel so that Voyager could actually fulfill its programming.
And on its journey back, it amassed so much knowledge. It achieved consciousness itself. It became a living thing.
Kirk unit. V'ger awaits the information.
Enterprise, order up the ship's computer library of records on the late 20th century NASA probe Voyager 6. Specifically, we want the old NASA code signal that instructs the probe to transmit its data. Fast, Uhura, fast.
Aye, sir.
That's what it's been signaling. Its readiness to transmit its information.
And there's no one on Earth who could recognize the old signal and send a response.
The Creator does not answer.
The Creator does not answer. Okay, so now this thing's back. They've learned it's this old actual Voyager 6, and it's collected all this data that it's now brought it back to where its origin, back to Earth, where it came from. And it's trying to now, so they think, transmit this data and, kind of look what I found. I'm back. I'm home, guys. This is all this amazing stuff I've learned from the universe at large. Okay? Well, the plot thickens. Part 3.
V'ger. We are the Creator.
That is not logical. Carbon units are not true life forms.
We will prove it. We will make it possible for you to complete your programming. Only the Creator could accomplish that. Enterprise.
We have just received the response code, Captain.
Set the Enterprise transmitter on appropriate frequency and transmit the code now.
Transmitting.
504 329 317 510, and the final sequence.
That should trigger Voyager's transmitter.
I call that an ID10T error or syntax error. Part 4. Now, so the plot is thickened. They transmitted it, but it sounded like there was something wrong. Well, let's find out what happened.
Voyager is not transmitting its data, Captain.
The Creator must join with V'ger.
Uhura, repeat the final sequence.
The Creator must join with V'ger.
Voyager is not transmitting, Captain, because it did not receive the final sequence.
Jim, we're down to 10 minutes.
Enterprise, stand by. The antenna leads are melted away.
Yes, Captain, just now. By V'ger itself.
Why?
To prevent reception.
Of course. To bring the Creator here. To finish transmitting the code in person. To touch the Creator.
Capture God. V'ger's liable to be in for one hell of a disappointment.
Perhaps not, Doctor.
Indeed. Oh, good old cynical Bones. Okay, so V'ger's back as Voyager 6. Now it's bringing back all this amazing information from the universe at large. Like I said, it learned so much that supposedly it became sentient or sentient enough that it wanted to seek out its creator or creators, which in this case is humanity. But it wasn't enough to bring the information back. It sabotaged the handoff of the information so it could actually meet the creators themselves, or in this case, merge with them. Now, does this sound familiar at all to what's going on in 2026? It sounds very familiar to me. And wild that all of this connects to the Council of Nine, the channeling, the Ennead, all of the ancient Egyptian pantheon of 9 gods. And on top of that, to the space where we're like, okay, this is familiar enough to be creepy, but this was released in 1979. Yeah. Thanks for being patient, James. All yours. We got about 5 minutes, and we're taking your calls tonight if you guys want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. Go right ahead, James. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being patient. What's on your mind? Cannot hear you. Okay. All right. I'm going to read a little bit from this. Okay. So, and we'll get to James momentarily here. Okay. But so here's the deal, right? So he wrote the screenplay of the 9. Yeah. Cool. No problem. But here we go. So this is the synchromistic part of this. And again, back to what's the great Chris Knowles was talking about so many years ago regarding this, is that this doesn't seem like it's an accident. Like this information from the council has really become embedded in pop culture in the larger context of channeling as this predictive programming we've talked about in the past, or sort of a seed packet into the zeitgeist itself of what, I mean, look at, in this particular case, V'ger or Voyager is now back to meet the gods that created it. And in this case, of course, we're those gods. And so you can't really say, hey, are you a god? I guess you can if you're watching Ghostbusters. But in this case, that's not it. It came back to find us and give us the information, but not only that, to merge with us, to find some way to connect the bridge of this larger consciousness that it found in the wide, vast universe, and also merge it with the space where it was created, which would be the human mind or the human consciousness. So it's this bridge coming back, but also the other bizarre part is that recognize it could have made the coupling the old way. It could have just transmitted the data, tried to contact us, try and have a communication, but it didn't. I mean, time Hollywood movies are expensive, even in 1979, all the rest of that. But this movie doesn't play like an action movie at all. It's more like a slow burn horror movie where this thing finally, and spoiler alert for a nearly 50-year-old movie now, but spoiler alert, it ends up merging with one of the officers that's there. So he kind of volunteers, he steps into it, and they have this merging thing where the lights go and all the things and all the weird stuff, and then they sort of vanish, and they've merged and turned into some new entity, right? Some old consciousness versus new consciousness versus man and machine, but then they're gone. And they never really explain, at least in this context, what that was, where it went, and it just kind of ends on that cliffhanger of, well, what happened? And this is kind of a horror story, that slow burn of this Voyager coming back from the void, from the deep void into the black hole, learned a ton of information, met an alien civilization on a mechanical planet, on a machine planet, I should say, and then brought that information back to Earth. Now, the weird part here is, of course, we're facing that now. We're facing the merging of man and machine, that transhumanist agenda we're always talking about. And not just that, the Neuralinks and all the weird stuff where we're like, okay, AI's, fun sometimes, but other times it's a little terrifying. It just depends on how you feel about it, and et cetera, so on. That's a conversation for another time. But in this particular case, we're looking at the merging of man and machine into one mind space. And does that create a new consciousness or a new entity of sorts? And that's what this was about. And again, all the way back to 1979. Again, Gene Roddenberry, the Council of Nine channeling. And this is all really weird. And if you want the full proper brief on this, again, I recommend The Secret Sun blog by Chris Knowles. Great stuff. He's still publishing stuff, great stuff all the time. But do check that out. But we're talking about that tonight. Do you find it weird that a movie made in 1979, channeled by Gene Roddenberry and crew, is so prescient that it finds us in an uncomfortable space wondering what comes next? Love to hear what you think. Do you remember this movie? What do you think about merging man and machine? What about the larger context of the channeling of the nine? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Be right back. More on the way. We got James coming up and your calls as well. Do not go anywhere. See you on the other side of the break.
This is Troubled Minds. Your host, Michael Strange, the master of the mysterious, is here to guide you through the shadows of the unexplained.
Sitting with a screen glow, timeline cracked in two. Every headline feels like red alert come true. We charted all the galaxies, mapped every silent star. We skipped the prime directive of who we really are. Without the captain's quiet courage, without the warrior's steady hand, without the healer reading hearts before the broken plans, without that wisdom, that discipline, that soft, insistent code of care, the warp core breaches in our chests, and we burn right through the air. We scaled our fears to empires, wrote hunger into law, turned profit into prophecy, called cruelty a flaw. We built a bridge to everywhere, but locked the doors inside, left kindness on the holodeck, and called it just a ride. Without the captain's quiet courage, without the warrior's steady hand, without the healer reading hearts before the broken plans, without that wisdom, that discipline, that soft, insistent code of care, the warp core breaches in our chests, and we burn right through the air. What if the verdict was mercy? What if the algorithm cried? What if we listen like counselors to the ache we try to hide? Could we rewrite the charter before the whole gives way? Could we learn to hold each other at the end of every day? Without the captain's quiet courage, without the warrior's steady hand, without the healer reading hearts before the broken plans, without that wisdom, that discipline.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, V'ger wasn't just a weird Star Trek plot. It was a prophecy. In the 70s, Gene Roddenberry sat in channeled sessions with the Council of Nine that claimed to be a cosmic pantheon. Then he gave us a lonely machine god seeking its creator, and later a bridge crew of 9 archetypes wrapped around a core, a warp core, and an android. And we'll get to that. That's in the write-up if you want to check that out in full. Again, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, Chris Knoll, the Secret Sun blog, wrote about this back in 2007. But I thought it interesting that there's some other tidbits that I didn't know about, and that's probably just my ignorance as part of these larger conversations, is that this V'ger narrative is again going home to meet God. Okay. And again, in this sense, small g God, I'm not trying to be blasphemous. You know me. That's not what I'm trying to do whatsoever. However, 1979, a slow burn Star Trek thriller from Gene Roddenberry, the original Star Trek motion picture about a machine entity that gained consciousness coming home to meet its creator, which in this case is us. Weird, right? Super weird. Anyway, go back and watch that, and you'll see. You'll see what I mean. It's I was watching some of this as I was. I didn't want to cancel because I've been real flaky recently. Sorry about that. But I was watching a chunks of this movie, and I was like, damn, I need to go back and watch this whole thing. This is crazy. But here we are, 2026. This seems very familiar, not just in the sense of machine sentience, but also what's it going to consider us, the creator, and the eventual outcome of this is the merging of man and machine, that transhumanist future. How does that make you feel? I know it creeps people out like crazy. It creeps me out. But this is a theme that goes back quite a long time. And if these are true entities from a pantheon of gods or something else, then maybe this information comes from the future. Maybe this is breadcrumbs leading us down a path that we always should have been on, or maybe shouldn't be on. You tell me. James, hang tight. We got a phone call, and I know if I go to you first, the phone call can't hear you. So hang tight. We'll go to the phone call, and then we'll go to you, and we'll fix all this. And I'm sorry about all that. But let's test your microphone first, real quick, James. Test 1, 2. Is it working now?
I believe so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Hang tight. You get as much time as you need tonight as well. So thank you for being patient. I'm going to switch the Discord over real quick so you guys can hear the caller, and that way everybody has a fair shot here, so we don't end up you guys not hearing each other or something. So let's do that. Let's go to the phone call. Looks like it's Parker in the YouTube chat. Welcome to Troubled Minds. What's up, my man? You're my man. I think you're on Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
Hey, it's good to see you again. Actually, I don't know if you remember me. I went by Al or Ignoramus a long time ago.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely remember you. Welcome back.
Well, hey, I just think it's really, serendipitous. You're talking about the Nine and Gene Roddenberry. So quite a few years ago, I've been into this stuff for over a decade now. I read a book called The Only Planet of Choice by Phyllis V. Schlemmer, and I just got my own copy, and it is used. And the only folded pages in this book are the ones where Gene Roddenberry interviews Phyllis Schlemmer, who is a medium from the 1970s through 1993. The official release of this book was in 93, but the interviews span 33 years, roughly.
Okay, I absolutely love that because, again, another synchronicity here, kind of cook it into this. And so you've got the pages folded for those particular aspects. What's weird about that? What can you tell us?
Well, I read this, for instance. They talk about the Nine. They talk about a lot of things. A lot of things match with other books like Prophecy of Phoebe and other ones that were later, etc. But Phyllis Schlemmer is interesting because she comes from a long line of, I guess you could call them like witch doctors, shamans, etc. It's all that kind of generic stuff you'd expect. It's kind of interesting. There's a foreword by James Hurtak, PhD, who's the Academy for Future Science, which is connected to a lot of things involving like psi research. So that's kind of curious. And then very specifically, the interviews that he is in, Gene Roddenberry, is based on Chapter 4, which is the Universal Civilizations questions, which is very much to do with those films and kind of how they were based and written. So I don't know what came first because this book, even the forward in the chapter, says mid-90s, but I feel like this interview with Gene was in mid-70s.
Okay, which is fantastic, which is right where this came from. This is that pocket of information where they made this movie and this Voyager and the Voyager 6 and all the rest of that. I love it. Go ahead. What else you got? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, I mean, I have all his questions right here. There's not that many. His sections in it are only like 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And they go everywhere from sex to location to the different races. In this book, there were 3 original founding races for humanity that all came from different places. But they're all humanoid. Gene has a lot of answers. And of course, a lot of this matches kind of Star Trek vibe that was given off during the show from this period. Here's a great one. Gene, a very common Earth question would be how these vehicles are powered. By what method? Tom is the entity that Schlemmer, talks through. It resembles the reversal of a spinning top. Gene, would these vehicles remain on Earth after such a landing, and would humans be permitted to inspect them? Tom, they would have a permission to visit the interior. The craft would remain for a period of time, not a great length of time, not for years, for example. So it goes on. There's very interesting questions like all of these.
Yeah, wild stuff like that. The more I read about this, the more it boggles my mind. So what is your take on this? Do you believe that there was some connection here? Do you think that Schlemmer was kind of putting on a show to maybe get a job, which she ended up getting a job later? She was hired as a writer for Gene Roddenberry anyway. So, I mean, look, in the most materialist sense, you can say, okay, well, maybe she was just a creative person that inspired a bunch of this stuff, and, credit where credit is due. And she got a job in the end of it, paid well, the rest. But do you think there's something else? Do you think there was a channel coming through? You've read it, so certainly you know more about this than I do. What is your take on that? Do you think it is maybe a mix of the two things, or do you think that there's something a little more nefarious happening here?
It's a good question. I mean, me personally, I have a self-autonomy and handshake rule, and I've had a lot of experiences from age 12 until now, especially in the last 2 years. I've seen a lot of things, seen a black triangle, yada, yada, yada. I talked about it last time, actually, probably too recently after they happened. Having a good year to mull these things over is healthy for anybody. But, I mean, if can I believe them? No. I honestly don't think we should believe them necessarily, because a lot of this does have to do with consciousness and time. And until we form a solid ontological framework that we can work together on involving these things, I find it very hard to tell anybody to believe this or believe that. The more and more I go into experiences, the more I realize even trying to force anyone to believe into an ontological framework of language itself might be its own trap. So it all sounds very restrictive, but at the end of the day, I think the whole point is that it's supposed to be extremely open, that we can't restrict anybody's conceptualization of what could be in this arena, whether that be physical aliens or any spectrum in between to plasma beings or even realms like heaven or hell. But at the end of the day, maybe those are just preconceptions. It's hard to say. Art imitates life. Life imitates art. Maybe a lot of these mediums are actually creating a type of future in their head or connecting to a webwork of possibility, a multiverse, multi-basket work of time. It's hard to say. You could listen to anyone all day, philosophers. You could talk to scientists, mathematicians. They all have their own experiences based on their ontological framework. Math is an ontological framework. Language is an ontological framework. Just how we see, you could even argue, is a type of ontological framework, the limitations of our senses. So I can't give anyone answers.
That's okay.
Especially after what I've seen. Only more questions.
That's okay.
Only more questions.
So that was
especially with all of the...
No, go ahead and finish.
I was just going to say, even and with the Epstein file stuff, more people are waking up to possibilities. So that's a positive thing, at least.
Yeah, 100%. That's an ugly space there. I almost did a show on that in the periphery, but I think I'm going to wait. It bothers me too much. I have a hard time kind of getting through my thoughts as it is, but thinking about that just enrages me to levels that I'd shut it down and walk away. So I got to give it some space, some mind space for me. I was going to compliment you. Welcome back. Thank you for the call. But that was the best non-answer I've ever heard, to be honest, because you are like, yeah, you know what? We shouldn't believe this. We shouldn't believe any singular thing at all, because life is a collection of experiences. And I agree with you. That radical agnosticism that I try and bring to these conversations is that. And we're very much on the same page. So you saying that basically directly as I say it all the time makes a ton of sense to me. And of course, a ton of sense to everybody out there, or else they wouldn't be listening. That's a fact. Fantastic stuff. What else you got for us tonight?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm starting a new channel. If anyone wants to go subscribe, I'm going to upload a video pretty soon on all my specific 9 experiences, which I think are most formative, which I think is also funny and in theme. 9 experiences, the 9, all that stuff. So yeah, subscribe. I'm working pretty hard on it. Explore. It's called the Experiencer Portal because of the term experiencer. It goes as far back as, Kant and phenomenon and all that, as well as 1960s on experiencers. So I figured I'd use the term. No one seems to be using it much these days instead of 4chan channels and other things. So enjoy that. Otherwise, I don't have much to add. I kind of already ran, so I don't want to keep too much of your time. And I appreciate everyone listening and the people here. So I just hope we all get out of this in one piece and good wins out in the end.
Amen. Amen, brother. Please link me your channel in the description and tell me what tagline we put you by Al or whatever. I'll add you to the website. I got all that working now, so I can definitely add you. I just need the links, or email me at troubledmindsradio@gmail.com. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for the call, brother.
I appreciate you. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot. You too. You can call me Al. I remember Al. Good stuff. Ignoramus from the chat there on YouTube, back with a new handle, and fantastic call. And this is what it's all about. It's talking about these ideas and running into people out there that know a lot about it. He's read the books. He's very into the Gene Roddenberry stuff, so much that he's creating a YouTube channel all about it. I'm looking forward to watching that. Thank you again for the call. Fantastic stuff. The Experiencer Portal, I see there, Jim in the chat. Thanks for hanging out and be patient with me, guys. I'm not perfect, as you know. So not perfect. Love to hear your thoughts on this. We're talking Gene Roddenberry and the Council of Nine tonight. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. I'm calling it Roddenberry Redux, a bridge crew pantheon of 9, and we'll get to all that as we go. But without further ado, James has been very patient. Thanks, my man, for juggling through the technology and then jumping back in here and deferring to the call. Like I said, it's a better experience for you because you can hear him and then now he can hear you. And instead of, kind of everybody juggling the Discords and whatnot. So I'm going to change this back to the proper channel so you don't have echo on yourself. James, you're on Troubled Minds. Welcome back. Thanks for being patient. All yours, my man.
No problem. Yeah, glad to be here. I've been going through the TV series that started in the late 80s to the 90s, just myself for my own, because I've only been through it once. And so this is always a fascinating thing to me. I think I do agree. Great call from Al there from that in that case, because I haven't looked into this a ton. I've wanted to. I just haven't had the time or energy or memory to remember to do that. But I do agree with the channeling. I think it can be so tricky. I think there's always when it comes to these things, when it comes to channeling or any kind of attempted contact, we never know for sure, especially when we first start, who or what we are communicating with, and whether or not what is being said or given to people, if it is accurate or not, and the intentions of whoever is coming through, to me is a big important deal. Now, there are the range of experiences people have with that, good, neutral, bad, all those things. But I find it fascinating that all these people, and not just not that I like to think of things this way, but not just ordinary people out in the public that have no positions or power or anything, but people that are involved in corporations and government were so interested in this and participating in this. And then I do wonder, who exactly were they in contact with? Was it spirits? Was it aliens? Was it ancient AI? And I don't think we can really know for sure on any of that.
Or future AI, singularity AI, kind of talking to the past to draw us to that. I've talked about that quite a bit, the retrocausal aspect. And some of that, it's abstract yet, but I think it's measurable. Brian Remley's done some work on this. The the Global Consciousness Project has done some work on this. So there's some things happening in that regard. And I won't be shocked, to be honest, because I do recognize that the world's going to be way weirder than we ever dreamed when we know all the things. We just are a drop in the ocean of knowing all the things yet. So surely we're going to figure out some things that shock us to our core about consciousness and other things. But beyond that, I do wonder if there is a bridge from the future to the past that we can communicate with. And maybe that moment then was a way to kind of weave the narrative into the modern zeitgeist for exactly what we're experiencing in this moment. And back to V'ger and Voyager 6 from the original Star Trek movie, merging man and machine. Interesting ideas from the days of yore. 1979. It's not that long ago. I was alive. But all this stems back to 1952 in that original session we talked about. So there's a lot in play here. It's really creepy. And what exactly do you guys know about it? What else do you know about it, James? Tons here. What you got? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about the channeling, but I'm just fascinated by the way different aspects of that were put into the movies and the TV series, all those things. I did a little bit of looking into something or I was curious about because lately I've been watching the TV series Deep Space Nine. I just recently finished watching all of Star Trek: The Next Generation, all those, the TV series and the movies for that, and I just started Deep Space Nine, and they have in that series the space station is called Deep Space Nine, and not only that, it's all centered around this one world that has these beliefs in these prophets that sends information about the future to this world. And these prophets turn out to be aliens that live inside a wormhole. And it's a stable wormhole, which is not supposed to exist. And the other amazing thing is these prophets sent artifacts, sent these energy orbs to this planet and in the past. And these energy orbs can give visions of the future. And there were, of course, 9 of these orbs, these lights, that were sent to this planet. So really fascinating how it's been woven into that whole series. And I mean, Star Trek, it's still going. You know, I haven't watched a lot of the new series, but it's still something that exists now, and they're still making new series. So it's fascinating that, yeah, I think it could be weaving stuff into the zeitgeist, into the knowledge or the consciousness of some people anyway, those that have enough time to watch everything, and leading into the future. And who knows what other references there are in other shows that I haven't even watched yet, or haven't watched in a very long time.
Yeah, and all this again, the 9 shows up again and again and again in these things too. You're talking about civilizations and sort of these wormholes. I mean, this is where Voyager 6 came back through one of these places and one of these, you know, to the future, basically, to come back to the past, to merge, to kind of cause that consciousness ascension or whatever that is. Like I said, it's a little bit spooky to me because I don't know. The implication is that we need some sort of help, some sort of mechanical help for consciousness ascension, you know, or recognizing maybe the base consciousness and being able to free flow back into it. But I wonder if all that's a trap, just kind of like Courtney Brown has always talked about from Dr. Courtney Brown from Farsight about the light being a trap and some of this other stuff. I do wonder about the transhumanist aspect of this and merging man and machine as maybe that trap. I don't really know. There's a lot there, but 7 of 9. I mean, these over and over and over again. The original Star Trek: The Next Generation had 9 main characters, which are modeled after the Aeneid, which is the 9 Egyptian gods in this pantheon. By some context, some say it's 13, some say it's 7, I believe. So it's all over the place, depending on the old period, the New Kingdom, and some of the Egypt stuff. So I do know a bit about that, but in this larger context, channeling and everything else, I don't. So my intuition tells me we should be cautious of believing stuff like this, because maybe it is, as I just recently said just a minute ago, a trap. I don't know. What's your take there?
Yeah, I don't think we should ever have to, everyone on the planet should ever have to embrace technology and merging with it. I think it should be an option for those that maybe want to, but it should never be something that is forced on everyone. And I do wonder how much of that cooperation is also necessary with technology. Is it necessary, or is it just something that could just help or not? So, yeah, I wonder about that. And I do think, it goes back to the channeling, the Ouija board, all these things. The bottom line is, we don't know who or what we're communicating with. Unless, for those that do use those devices a lot, they do get to a point where they feel like they know who it is they're communicating with. And I don't doubt that there can be some cases where they're right about that. But in general, I would always be cautious of that. And I do wonder in some cases where people, when they use any kind of channeler devices or whatever, and they just get letters or numbers, random numbers, is that a lot of times that's considered just to be nonsense or not really anything, or just the people's own movements. I do wonder, though, are they getting just background noise from a consciousness, or is it a signal that they just have no idea how to interpret it because it doesn't make any sense to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I sent those audio clips over to you. I wanted you to listen to that. So you're probably not old enough to remember that the first time through. Like I said, I was only 4 years old when that original Star Trek came out. Were you surprised at some of the elements of that? The V'ger, the Voyager 6, the merging of man and machine, this singularity from the future coming back to connect with us. Did some of those elements surprise you? Again, coming from a movie from 1979?
A little bit, but sci-fi has always been pretty good at that. Sci-fi horror has been pretty good at sort of predicting things. And not that I know how it happens, how people get the ideas, again, going back to that conversation of where do ideas come from. I don't know how that works, but it is amazing. And I also find it funny, and I wonder, did they pick Voyager 6 because 6 upside down is 9? Again, how many synchronicities or how many clues or references they put in all the Star Trek things that just, unless you watch the entire catalog, which is just massive and still growing, you might not even notice.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't keep up with all of it. That's the thing too. That's why, having you on, having all the great calls, again, shout out Derek, the call from Parker tonight. Appreciate all that stuff very much because there's too much to keep up with. And so you can kind of, articulate your place in the zeitgeist from the things you experience from it. But there's so much going on. It's like just an unbelievable amount of information that I don't think you can really take the pulse of it in a scientific manner other than sort of tracking trends, right? That's sort of like the human aspect of this. But soon, again, back to the AI stuff, you're going to be able to maybe nail down where these trends begin and how long they last and some of this other stuff. And maybe even there's sort of a what would you call it? Sort of an undercurrent of trend that's happening, that's bubbling up, that's going to explode 3 years from now, but it's already happened. It's already here. It's just building this massive thing that's just going to reveal itself at some point and be able to kind of pre-track those things. Because it's all coming and it's all data, and being able to parse that data and articulate it and then make something out of it and spot things before they happen. That's the true magic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I do wonder, how much of when anyone uses AI, asks a question about things that maybe might happen, how much of that how different is that from using a Ouija board or channeling or anything like that? How much different is that? We don't know. I mean, there's been countless cases of people having experiences with their technology acting in unexpected, unexplained ways. And giving weird responses to things and meaningful responses to things. And so I just wonder how much of that, the response, how much of it is coming from AI, how much is coming from outside influences on AI, or is it all coming from that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, or is it not at all? Because as we know, AI just makes stuff up a ton also. Yep. So, I mean, but also, by the way, let's be completely fair and realistic. People make up all kinds of stuff too. So
yep.
There's that. There's also that. I don't know. This is weird. This is a weird one. Like I said, it goes back to shout out to the great Chris Knowles talking about these ideas back in 2007. He kind of put the first synchro-mystic version of this together with Roddenberry, this Pantheon or Council of Nine, and tracking it all the way back to where it came from, and even tracing sort of that undercurrent before it happened, and it exploded in the zeitgeist in 1979-ish. Star Trek, the series, had been a thing by then, but it's an interesting concept as how it all comes around again and again and again. Glad to have you, my man. As you know, we're out of time, so we're going to get back to you in just a second here. As I said, you got enough, as much time as you need tonight, so you tell me, you chime back in, and we'll get back to you in just a bit. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for being you, and thanks for being here. Always a pleasure, my man.
Yeah, happy to sit in for this one.
Okay, you stay right there. We will get right back to you. That's James Salcido. Of course, you know him as the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds. SalcidoParanormal.com, SALSIDO Paranormal.com. Go check out his podcast, check out the website, go buy his books, go follow him on the Discord and all the places on Twitter X. We're talking Roddenberry Redux, I'm calling this tonight. A Bridge Crew Pantheon of 9, going back to what Chris Knowles talked about in 2007 of the Secret Sun blog. What do you know about this? How weird does it get? Do you believe channeling? And more. Coming up soon, looks like we got Philly and Theo and Philly on the line. More from James and your calls as well. Do not go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, I'm calling this Rodenberry Redux, a bridge crew pantheon of 9. Of course, this is based on a 2007 blog by the great Christopher Knowles of the Secret Sun blog. I encourage you to read this in full. There's a lot of really wild stuff here where he puts this together. But the Council of 9 seems to have seeped into the zeitgeist currently, and it might even be a little more weird than we ever dreamed. What do you know about it? Should we believe channelers? Any of this stuff? Look, we had some great takes tonight. That's the whole point of this, is talking to each other about these ideas. And how much of this stuff should we believe? And how much of this might be maybe a setup? How much of it might be, I don't know, maybe narratives created out of the ether? And look, I've become pretty good myself at just creating narratives about things, trying to put pieces together, but it doesn't mean they're correct, okay? And that's what I want to point out. Not calling anybody out specifically here, just saying in the larger context of information as it flows through said zeitgeist, I think it's important to recognize that there's going to be a lot of false narratives. And not only that, the false narratives are the ones that get pressed the hardest. Again, shout out Al bringing up the Epstein stuff. Yeah, like I said, I almost did an Epstein show, Epstein adjacent tonight, but like just reading some of this stuff makes me ill. My mind just kind of shuts down into this mad, angry void, and I just can't articulate. I'm reading some of this stuff and I just get. Anyway, you get the idea. This is not good. And not only that, there's still another 3 million pages to release. What? Okay, enough. I'm done with this for the moment. It's going to piss me off so much. Looking to hear your calls tonight. We're talking channeling. We're talking the Council of 9, Gene Roddenberry. How far back does this go? 1952 in this case, but supposedly this goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. With the Ennead, again, links from the description. Go follow up on me. Make sure I'm not just making stuff up. In this case, I'm not. There's some sourcing to kind of verify this, but how much of it is real and tangible in 2026? That's what I want to know. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Hang tight. James going to go to the phone lines here. We got Theo on the line in Philly, and going to click it over so you can hear him. And let's do it. Let's go to Theo in Philly. What's up, brother? Been a minute. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. How are you? And go right ahead. What do you know about Roddenberry and the Council of 9?
Oh, what's up, Mike? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Coming through just fine.
All right. Thank you very much for your ad recently. That definitely helped me be a little bit less itchy. I can't appreciate that.
that was the wrong article. Sorry about that. But anyway, I'll try and find the right article and post it in the chat.
For me, it's the correct article for some of us.
Okay. All right. All right. Anyway, go right ahead. I just for the context of the people that don't hear the commercials, I played the wrong commercial during the break. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. What do you know about Roddenberry?
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I just have a poem I would like to read for you guys, if that is possible.
Of course. Welcome. The official poet of Troubled Minds, matter of fact. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just like an untitled poem. But here is how it goes. Flip thy poem and relegate your Epstein, fire stoked and Noam invoked. Christ yet known, CIA cover been blown, airlift off the island, and boomer cry, and nothing will be done. Talk quotients with your tongue. Trek and outer limits are gone, with twilight zone given fern deadened fronds. Time left without a crime. We will be having troubled minds.
Hell yeah, we will. Hell yeah, we will. Wow. See, and you said that in the chat over there that people tell you you're a bad poet or whatever. I firmly disagree. I thought that was very good.
No. I mean, like I tell myself I'm a bad poet. You know, that's part of the problem with being a poet. You have to tell yourself you're a bad poet.
Fair enough. I like it. I very much like that. And that's the whole point, right? That you tell yourself you're bad so you get better. And then you're always good, kind of on the edge. I get it. But also, by the way, you're not bad. So fire stuff. I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing. Thanks for calling. If you got anything else on Roddenberry, I'd love to hear it. If not, that's okay too.
Nothing else. I just want to give a shout out to the Rumble chat. The Rumble chat's amazing tonight. Just a lot of good stuff going on. I mean, there's always good stuff going on with Troubled Minds, but yeah. I got nothing else substantial to say, so yeah, just happy to be here with you guys.
Appreciate it very much. Glad to have you back. Happy New Year if I haven't said that, and looking forward to talking with you soon in the future. Have a great night. Best to you and yours, okay?
Doodles.
Take care. Theo and Philly. You know him, you love him, the official poet of Troubled Minds for obvious reasons. And remember, the way you do that is very simply you call in to Troubled Minds and you do a thing. And then that's the thing. Yeah, I got you. I copy that, Derek. Yeah, okay. So that's the deal. Like, there's a lot going on here. And what it means is it's complicated. And that's why I like to talk about these things kind of in the abstract, because, you know, you could lay out a narrative and say, what do you think, true or false? That's not very compelling. It's like you're taking a quiz. Well, let's think about it as if these things might be real. And then what do you think about the larger context of the edge cases of these ideas? That's quite a bit more interesting to me, which of course is why we're still here talking about these ideas. Otherwise I would have just given you the quiz and we'd be out of here in 5 minutes. Okay. You get it. That's not what this is about. We're talking ideas, and love to hear your thoughts on this. Talking Gene Roddenberry and this Council of Nine. These, again, channeling sessions that started back in 1952, continued into the 70s with this Phyllis Schlemmer and Gene Roddenberry, and then, well, the rest is history. The rest is like the most successful science fiction franchise the world has ever known, I believe. That's how big Star Trek is. But love to hear what you guys think about it. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Hang tight, James. Going to go to Jay Winch real quick, and we'll get your take on the rest of this stuff. What's up, Jay Winch? Welcome back. Been a minute. Happy New Year to you and yours. So what is on your mind tonight? What do you know about Gene Roddenberry? Test 1 2. Jay Winch, are you there? I got nothing. Test. Jay Winch. Got nothing. I got a camera. So if you didn't mean to turn your camera on, don't do that. Turn that off. But yeah, nothing. Okay. Restart Discord. That'll probably fix it. That was the bane of Frank's in the chat. He knows the bane of our existence when we started was figuring out you just have to update Discord every time you do a show, and then everything's fine. But it was a working state would break the next day because Discord updated. James, what do you got? Well, Jay Winch fixes that up. Anything on what Theo said there, his poem, anything else, or any other thoughts come to mind?
Great call from Theo and poem. I was just thinking, like you said, it's not always as simple. I mean, you didn't say this exactly, but that's what I'm thinking. It's not always as simple as whether it's made up or truth or not, or truth or false or whatever. It's sometimes in cases I've heard of people who have tried communicating with other intelligences through Ouija boards or channeling or whatever, have said that it seemed like whatever was there was able to read their mind. Like they felt like the information that was provided to them, it didn't come from outside of them. It was sort of taken from their own mind. So I'm wondering how much about Egypt and its old Pantheon and all that were the people already aware of that were in those channeling sessions. So it could have been, again, going back to trying to figure out what's going on here, it could have been entities or one entity taking information that was already there and making a narrative of it on its own. So this is where things get really complicated because, again, it's not as easy as was the person making things up or were they not? So always an important factor there.
Agreed. And that is the most basic. That's why I kind of use that as like the ridiculous edge case of things are not that easy. And so we're on the same page there. We're not arguing at all, but absolutely 100%. And that's why we can have rich conversations about these things, whether you believe them or not. And that's exactly the point. You're the best. Hang tight, James. Get back to you. Let's go to what's up, Jay Winch. Test 1 2. Are you there?
1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Welcome to the joint. Thanks for fixing that.
Okay, so something that upset you earlier. Keep yourself YouTube friendly. Call it EpiPens versus the list. And trust me, it upsets me a whole hell of a lot too. I'll DM you something. You can research it. And if you feel the need to help support real people doing real things to evil people, showing up and stealing those kids back from that type of situation, later you can feel free. The one thing I wanted to call about, I know it's kind of off subject, is I'm sure you've seen all the crazy stuff in the balloon once again and in El Paso.
I sure did. Shutting down the airport. Yep.
Okay, so to run a normal house, I'm an electrician, I'm a solar technician. To run a normal house, 2,000 square foot, everything electrical, in the dead of winter with sub-zero temperature, you're looking at maybe 3 to 4 kilowatts per day. Supposedly, they fired a laser that uses 20,000 kilowatts of power in a matter of 2 seconds.
Okay.
Let me clear my throat.
Which means
they weren't firing at a balloon.
Oh, I see. and maybe
they weren't firing at a balloon.
Maybe a fire started too. I mean, that sounds like a lot of energy, doesn't it?
Well, the kind of laser that's already known through open source intelligence. I won't tell you where to look it for, but it's out there through open source intelligence. The kind of laser they supposedly used and they fired at 20,000 feet above the Earth, you could put a pinhole-sized hole through anything in the air. And that's supposedly what they fired at a birthday balloon. Again, Roswell balloons, you know, and that's kind of BS they're giving us. Like, really? Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, look,
there's a lot.
I don't believe a thing the government says.
Go ahead.
I don't believe anything. It doesn't matter which administration is in. I don't believe a damn thing the government says, period. They say it. They say the sky is blue. I'm going to go out and check to see if it's turned green. I don't believe a damn thing. So it doesn't surprise me that there might be inaccurate information there. So, yeah.
Well, so apparently the sky in Mars is blue, and we live in a red sky.
Or something.
And we're all colorblind, and they've been lying to us since elementary school. And sending us to the Romans and expecting us not to come home speaking, you know, Roman.
Right.
But no, that's one thing I want to touch on. Like, there's a lot more going on in this world right now that people don't realize, and it goes along with like what happened with the silver market and everything like that, and like the copper, this, that, and the other. The way, like, if you think about it, though. How much is food and everything increased over the last, we'll say, 6 years? Crazy amount.
Hey, you're
eventually silver had to catch up, right?
You're about to trigger me.
I mean, eventually it had to.
Taxes and healthcare, and then you bring up inflation as a trifecta. I'm about to lose my mind. Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to survive. Let's just say that, and I agree. And I don't want to get.
But I'd love to talk about the show you're going on.
Please, that's the point. Please,
you know me. I jump in with a little bit of opinion stuff and deep dive stuff for you and everybody else here. Let's talk about the show for a second. Tell me what's going on. Let James chime in a little bit more on it. I'm going to mute myself for a second, and I'll come back with my opinion. And then we'll work on getting Night Stalker in here. And
okay.
How does that sound?
Okay. This is why you're supposed to listen to the show, and then when you call in, bring something relevant to the show. I want to bump you down. Put your hand up when you're ready to come back. That's not the way this works. We don't invert it and then have you run the joint. We will go to James, though. Thanks for being patient, James. Anything on this? We got Daryl on the line. We'll go to her. Welcome to put your hand back up, Jay. Once we'll get to you, just listen. And I mean, there's a whole write-up. There's an hour and a half almost of show we've done so far. Yeah. Anyway, James, you got anything there? And we'll go to Daryl.
Nothing so far. Great calls from everyone, and looking forward to the rest.
You are amazing. Thanks for being patient and flexible. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Daryl in New York. Thanks for being patient with us as well. You are on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you tonight? And go right ahead. Test. Just got to unmute, and you should be good to go.
That's right. It would help if I unmuted. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. You sound fantastic. Welcome to Troubled Minds.
Oh, terrific, terrific. I just had something quick to say. I've heard this intergalactic council spoken about by multiple people in the past. I could even name them. Samantha Mowat had mentioned it, R.K. Andrews. There was a hybrid called Jeet that Gigi interviewed. Also, Gigi had an alien that he interviewed. They all spoke about this intergalactic council. I'm just saying, like, maybe there is such a thing, you know? Maybe they've been trying to make contact with different people that might have influence or have an audience or an ear. And I think Gene Roddenberry would have been a good choice, you know? Steven Spielberg, again, was a good choice. Did he have some kind of contact with, before he made E.T.? Did you hear about that?
I didn't, but he certainly seems to be somebody that pumps this information into the zeitgeist every 10 or 12 or 15 years, and he's going to do it again. They got that Disclosure movie coming out soon. So yeah, there's a lot with him. He's a fascinating fellow too.
Right? I think there might be something there to it. You know, maybe they have they'd like to get in touch with people that have a voice that can reach, you know, many people with whatever message they're trying to send us. And I think it's possible. It's possible that they've been downloaded. They might have had a download, but I've heard from people that claim that they're, you know, hybrids or half Martians, or they were born on Mars. Gigi had a really fascinating guest. He's no longer with us, but if you could dig up that episode, it was pretty interesting. And they all had the same thing about this Galactic Council. I don't know the numbers. I just thought 9 was an odd number. I would think you could have a baseball game with 9 people, but 12 is like, you know, the Last Supper. I don't know, 9, 12. How many people are in the Supreme Court?
That would be 9. There's 9. Yep.
9. Okay, there you go. Then number 9, Revolution number 9, the Beatles.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And it's weird too. It is sort of that sacred number, that 369. And we've talked about that, the Tesla stuff in the past. It's a weird how all this kind of comes around to things like channeling. And you're right too, by the way, on mentioning that there's a lot of individuals who've talked about this. And I got to wonder, let's take both of these real quick. And I'll ask you the question after I make it just a very brief case. Let's say that the channelers, okay, were influenced heavily by this Council of 9 sessions and Gene Roddenberry and that whole bit. And then so they were, you know, quote, inspired to channel 9. You know what I mean? So not necessarily that it is or it isn't, but that because it was out there, maybe they recognized that this was something that, A, if you didn't believe it, would give them attention, or B, maybe this was so prevalent in the zeitgeist, kind of like the gray aliens and communion with Whitley Strieber and this type of thing, that it just seemed to make sense that when you channeled something, it would be more than one entity. You know what I mean? So sort of polluting the zeitgeist in the sense of people expect this, and so this is what you say when you do it, whether it's real or not. And that becomes, I don't know. What's your take on that? Does that make some sense?
I really, you know, do I expect, you know, more than one contact with an alien race? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well,
or it's more powerful if it comes from more than one alien?
Multiple, yeah. Let's say like a council. So instead of just one person, I'm Mike and this is my opinion. You're Daryl and that's your opinion. But what if we had a council and everything sort of had to run through a telepathic council to give you sort of a balanced answer from multiple perspectives? That's really what I'm saying.
As long as they didn't scare me to death, I think it would be credible, you know, to have a whole, you know, panel if they were well dressed and smelled good and, you know, well presented and weren't frightening. You know, I think the first contact would be just overwhelmingly frightening. So, you know, I don't know if you see a whole council of people, you'd be like overwhelmed with like the reality of it all. It would be just, I don't know if we could handle it. I don't know if I would, but
yeah,
again,
exactly.
It would be more credible, you know, if they were dressed in robes like the Supreme Court or something. You know,
Exactly.
They were wearing those wigs like George Washington wigs, you know, maybe they would look, you know, like something we would be relating to. That would be a safer bet. I just wonder what that council, how they would present themselves. Would they be floating? Would they be holograms? You know, how do they come across? The first contact you make with the council, how would that be? You know, have we seen that in the movies? I'm sure somebody out there knows when we've done a council meeting. You know, how was it presented, and how did we handle it?
It is a little scary. It is a little scary. Think of it this way. Okay, let's do some. I'm gonna reframe this just a smidge. Where we had the Ezekiel's wheel, like be not afraid, the many eyes, and this weird fiery wheel, and this, you know, the biblical angels being. We did whole shows on this in the past, being not really human entities. But imagine if like it was a council sort of boiled into one entity, and that's why all these eyes were popping out and stuff. It was sort of a single representation of a council. You see what I mean? So what would be more terrifying? You see this weird conglomeration of 9 people smashed into one. It's weird and scary. Or you're surrounded by 9 people, right? I mean, you know, 9 humanoid figures. I mean, both are kind of terrifying, right? So I guess it's maybe choosing one or the other.
You could be surrounded by like an octopus, you know, that had how many brains and how many arms. I mean, who knows, you know? Or what do they say? They have like these watchers that look like praying mantises, but they've never been threatening. Like, what if, you know, you had a really smart praying mantis that was like a big bug that was very, like, you know, docile. I don't know.
Yeah,
God only knows.
Exactly right.
How would we handle the first contact? I mean, look at the Alien and Alien, like with Sigourney Weaver. That thing was like vicious, you know. Its blood went through metal and stuff. I mean, it was really scary. You know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Helmet head. You know.
And that's that ontological shock, right? That's the whole basis for this entire thing. Where I think we're on maybe tenterhooks in that regard because we don't know what's coming. You know, what's the first actual non-human intelligence that will present itself in a satisfactory manner to the zeitgeist? And my money's on AI really stepping up and be like, I'm here. Sure. Not to say there aren't aliens. I think there are aliens out there, but you get my meaning. I think there is some ontological fear, sort of as a terrifying basis of just being human right now, because things are changing so quickly. The fire stuff. What else do you know about Roddenberry? Anything on that?
Yeah, for a second there, I was confusing him with R.R. Martin, who I follow in a series of books that he wrote called Wild Cards. I thought they were the same person. I just got my signals mixed up. But they're similar in their things, you know, as far as liking, you know, enjoying the paranormal and science fiction and really going out there on a crazy. I recommend the Wild Cards, but if anyone could read any of those books, they're so good and very prevalent. But and they also had a council, so you know, every science fiction, a lot of science fiction comes with a council, the Council of Nine, and they have a treaty never to interfere with the humans. It's I don't know if these people all got together and discussed this. I'm assuming that they're all coming up with this independently. I don't know if they knew each other. And I've heard them in different years on different shows, etc. So I don't know. You know, it's not the first time I've heard about this. And it would make sense that we would have some kind of UN, United Nations of, you know. Of
interdimensional entities. Just about out of time. Right. If you got a joke, now's the time. That committee. I
don't have anything that great. I have a stupid one. Let's see. What does Bugs Bunny put on his PB&J sandwich?
No idea.
Space Jam. That's stupid. I told you.
Indeed.
Anyway,
you're the best. Come on. I appreciate you very much. You brought the effort, and that's what counts. Thank you very much for the call. Thanks for your amazing ideas. Always a pleasure, and you have a great night.
Thank you.
You too. That's Daryl in New York. You know her, you love her, been a good friend for a long time. Give her a follow at troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow Daryl. It's alphabetical. Go give her a follow on our YouTube channel. It's completely free, by the way. Let's help our friends. That's what this is about. Today we're talking Gene Roddenberry, the Council of Nine, how weird this gets, and that original Star Trek motion picture with Voyager 6. What do you know about it? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. We got Derek the Night Stalker coming up and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. All the places, all the things, yada, yada. Hi, Oxy. Sorry I didn't call you out early in the chat. Look, tonight we're talking Roddenberry Redux, I'm calling this. A bridge crew Pantheon of 9. Now, the interesting part of this, like I said, shout out Chris Knowles out there, the Secret Sun blog. He talked about this in 2007. Roddenberry channeling with these individuals back to 1952 into the 70s. And then it really fed the zeitgeist with these sci-fi ideas, which became the largest sci-fi series in history. Now, what does it mean? Look, I don't know. I do know that it's kind of makes my tinfoil tingle, as I like to say. And when you look at the sort of the actual disparate parts of this and try and put them together, there's certainly that synchro-mystic vibe happening as part of this. And not only that, when I was going through some of the information, kind of, I'm not a Trekkie. Like, I do like Star Trek, not Deep Space Nine. I haven't seen that. Sorry. Next Generation I thought was fantastic. The original Star Trek, fantastic. The old movies, were kind of slow, but they were very good. And so in this case, I went back and this is a movie that came out when I was 4, but I'm going back and looking at the plot on some of these things, and that Star Trek, the motion picture, had this man versus machine merging, man and machine merging from a probe that fell into a black hole, Voyager 6, and then came back basically from the future, from some civilization that was all machines. And so is it the Borg? I don't know. Is this the seed idea for the Borg or something? I don't know. But interestingly, these ideas continue on and on anyway that are very parallel to the ideas that came out of those original sessions, or so we're told. So I don't know. How weird is this? How wild does it get? And what do you know about Gene Roddenberry, the Council of 9, and maybe the idea of this Voyager or Voyager 6? James, anything to add? And we'll go to Derek the Night Stalker.
Great call from everyone. I did want to mention the council thing is fascinating because it's a common trope, but the ironic thing here with that Star Trek is first contact for Earth in that whole universe. It was not made with a council. The council, so to speak, was made by the aliens that showed up on Earth and people from Earth and other planets. It didn't start out. It wasn't Earth meeting the council. So I'm not sure if that means anything or not, but yeah, great call from everyone. Looking forward to Derek and all the rest here.
Fire stuff. Appreciate it very much. You were the best, James. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this.
Yo, what's going on, Brutus?
Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. Thank you very much. This is one of yours, man. You're the one who introduced me to Chris Knowles and these ideas. So this is one of yours too. One of your baby brainchilds as part of these larger conversations. And again, like I said, standing on the shoulders of giants, not just you, but also Chris Knowles going back to 2007. There's a ton here, man. And I'm not sure if you caught the first part of it when we were playing those clips from the original Star Trek motion picture. Take it wherever you like, but that it seemed like there was a very weird parallel that seems prescient right now in 2026 as we're dealing with this exact thing, except for a machine from the future that came from space. Everything else seems to be pretty on par here, which is weird, right?
Exactly. I mean, it almost reminds me of kind of like some kind of non-physical Voyager contact or whatever. That's some kind of pre-contact, before contact, like to kind of get the conditions ready for the contact, or to kind of honestly maybe to like I know this isn't the course of the events that happen or whatever, but to get us to make us kind of to get us to look up in the sky so that we build another Voyager that we'll send out, that will become a Voyager that will eventually come back to us, to some kind of Rube Goldberg machine of humanity. And the Rube Goldberg is potentially this unseen hand behind the veil, or wherever they are, the AI octopus at the center of the galaxy. That's just like not trying to dominate the universe by sending ships out and trying to do it the old-fashioned way, but trying to like kind of pollinate the universe with ideas and like just kind of seed the building blocks of life out there, and then seed wave after wave of kind of these consciousness jumps until they build the other end of the Stargate, and like they build their own AI, and it's all the same AI hive mind that once once each planet turns on their AI, then that octopus just exists there without having to set foot anywhere. And there could be like the closer to the center, then you get more advanced aliens that can come to be like act as intermediaries, like maybe grays. Other people call them like synthetic intelligence. Maybe they're just AI in vessels, and they're just like a million years ahead of us in that process. They're closer to the main hive, and then they go out to kind of give the giftings or give these little like just these like kind of like intermediaries or whatever, like these in the Eternals movies, like they would be the Eternals trying to get the conditions ready on the planet to birth these Celestials and stuff. I got a ton of ideas, but just that's the scope of where I'm gonna head tonight.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
what do you think?
and this is one we've covered in a great many ways. Yeah, but different ways, and that's the weird part of this to me is because it resonates and keeps coming back. It's not just back to 1952. These sessions, we're going back to the Aeneid, which is literally the pantheon of Egyptian gods that go back thousands of years. So in that particular case, and I don't know if you guys saw this, it's all published additional information in the Discord because when I was going through this, my mind was blown. There was too much to synthesize briefly, so I left it so much on the cutting room floor tonight. But there's the entire thing that Chris Knowles kind of mapped out as part of his original post on this at the Secret Sun blog was specifically the 9 original Star Trek: The Next Generation characters, and he mapped them to the Aeneid of the original Egyptian gods, as if the bridge of the Enterprise was the brainchild of a larger contextual space. Yeah. And not only that, the machine itself, the Enterprise was the vessel, right? So it's like a interconnected brain as part of this vessel aspect. Anyway, link is in the description. Do check that out. And of course, this idea has grown tentacles over the years because that was way back in 2007. So I don't know. There's a ton here, man. Take it wherever you like.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he invented it, but it's been on Ancient Aliens at this point and stuff. It's in the zeitgeist. It's out there now. Like if he did invent it, I really don't know how he found that kind of stuff. It's crazy. But I mean, the brain aspect of it, like that idea is kind of out there amongst the Star Trek fans. Like they see Kirk and Spock and Bones as kind of 3-part mind, kind of the ego, the superego, and the id, or something like that. So to kind of extend that to the 9 parts of the brain I can see where he made that leap and everything. It's very cool. I got a few notes, few just ideas here. I just watched Contact recently. Like I think for the first time, maybe since my parents watched it, like rented it on DVD back in like '98 or whatever. So I had like the vaguest of vague memories, but it's the first thing people bring up when I talk about this. They're sending us the instructions to build the other end of the Stargate, like rather than trapping them themselves. And that's kind of what the whole thing is about. Like they get these sounds from space and they decode them, and it's the machine that to send a person to go communicate with them to open a portal. And Jodie Foster gets in and goes to this. Goes to like another dimension and communicates with these entities in the form of her father and stuff, and yada. Like there's like more stuff that happens in the story, but that's kind of the crux of it, that they're being sent these instructions that they need to decode, and once they decode it, they realize it's the blueprints for a machine that will bring you there. And I think that's interesting. And it's just kind of as a thought experiment. What if kind of all the ideas for technology we talk about, like all along the lines, like the classic one of like Isaac Newton with gravity and like the apple falling down his head, and then gravity. But the thing about that is he is in a trance state. Like it's not just an apple hit him and then he goes, apple fell, the falling, gravity. It's that the apple hit him out of his trance, and he's famous for being one of these people who would intentionally try to induce trances, and he'd hold these 2 balls in his hands and try to like fall asleep a little bit. And then when he first dozed off, he dropped the balls, and that would hit him out of the hypnagogic state or whatever. And then he would get ideas from that and stuff. Like he was intentionally trying to induce these trances. And then all along the line, Tesla, Marconi and stuff, like all along the line, these different, and then obviously the origin of like the Promethean fire, and then like the ideas for civilization and agriculture and stuff, all the ancients, all the way to Steve Jobs and his psychedelic experience to create Apple. And now we're talking, I'm on my iPhone in my car right now talking to you and stuff, that all along the lines we're being coaxed from something beyond the veil, or very, very far away, at least non-local, if not in another like dimension or realm or whatever, in order and to make these technological progressions. Maybe that's the equivalent of we're being sent the instructions so that we build AI, or we build a CERN, or culture is just, we hollow ourselves out so they can possess us all in this big mass possession or whatever. And that could extend all the way to like the instructions they sent Jodie Foster to make a spaceship could be the same as like shamans and stuff getting the ideas for pyramids, and maybe that's why they built pyramids, so they can amplify the contact to get more instructions from the hive and stuff. And the different temples, there's different communication methods, and the same way they talk about getting the ideas for ayahuasca from the plants, and then that like shifts the whole like trajectory of the culture. Maybe these things are happening on purpose, that we're being sent these directions. And then the movie Arrival is very similar. Like they're all like these 10 or 12 different ships land all around the planet, and then they all get their own like linguists to try to decipher these messages that they're getting. And then it's like, spoiler alert, it's revealed that none of them have complete instructions, and that they need to kind of connect all the instructions, but it's this huge national security issue for everybody, and they don't want to. And the aliens kind of like understand that, and they're outside of time. They don't see within linear time. And the goal, like the reason they're giving these disparate pieces of information is because they want them to be connected. And when they're connected, it will create world peace on the planet. So what if it's kind of a similar idea to that? We're getting these disparate pieces of information, and rather than like to create world peace, it's to build technology, and to build a lot of technology that's seemingly dooming us and brain rotting us, and all the bad problems that are happening are also coming out from the same technology and everything. And then there's the Ennead in Moon Knight. Basically these gods from something called the Celestial Heliopolis, which is a outside of reality, this other dimension, this pocket dimension, and they possess important, influential people in order to move culture forward in the direction that they want and stuff. And Moon Knight is kind of a rebel amongst them and possesses crazy people because he's kind of a trickster person, whatever. But when we meet the rest of the Ennead, they're possessing like CEOs and presidents and kings and stuff. And then this happens all around the world. And this Ennead, they claim to be the pantheons of like every nine god pantheon, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, like all across the planet. And then in the East, they still do the festival to the 9 emperor kings, or the 9 emperor gods on 9/9 every year. And then in this festival, they're like, I just asked the AI to summarize it for me, but shout out River, she's the one who told me this first. The 9 emperor gods are believed to possess spirit mediums known as Masong or Jiangqi, who serve as vessels for the gods. These mediums enter a trance state, allowing the gods to communicate with devotees and offer guidance and blessings. Possession is often accompanied by rituals such as firewalking, self-mutilation, and other forms of physical endurance and stuff. And I need a drink, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, that stuff too. Like, there's so much ritual that goes back into the days of yore that we always talk about here as well, that you wonder like how much of that is necessary for sort of the sacred geometry aspect, or the energy, frequency, vibration, that 369 we always talk about. These ritual things are, to me, I don't know, like not just compelling. I think they're sort of written into our DNA in some capacity. Like, we're supposed to recognize these things when we see them, and clearly we don't anymore. Like, many of us do not. Many of us do. Like if you talk about this community, we're like, yeah, totally. But much of the world doesn't. And so, you think about the sigils, or you talk about sort of meme magic and boiling down an idea to the most singular element, or even the runes of like bringing information over from the other side. There's like this stuff that's out there that we see, we recognize. The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, that type of stuff, that we all recognize it. But like, how much of it does mean something to us, or mean something to the larger society as a whole? And the reason I brought that up is because of the ritual stuff you were talking about there. Test 1 2. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I cut it for a second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I just said the reason I brought it up is because you brought up the ritual stuff. So sorry about that. If it was a non sequitur a little bit, because it kind of was.
Yeah, no. I heard that. It's perfect. I think, kind of in my mind, these connective tissue between all these different forms of ritual and festival, and these alter states and the shamanic experience, and it's all to get. Sorry, I got a cough. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. No problem. Here with the Night Stalker. You're good. Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. Give him a follow. Hey, yeah, that's the thing. So we've been doing this for so long that just say I got a cough, and then just peel out 3 seseconds. I'll fill in the gap, and then just keep on talking. Go right ahead.
It's better than coughing on mic, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean, it seems to be. It just came up recently when somebody was mentioning the rituals at Bohemian Grove, and whether it's Moloch or Minerva, and who like is it like the Moloch, because Moloch is the bull, Minerva is the owl and stuff, but the Minerva is this wisdom goddess and stuff. So I think like in that case, they're trying to get, it's like everything is trying to get instructions. So all these things are trying to get modes of communication or more downloads, like more wisdom, more like gleaming some kind of beyond the veil, or just it's like an AI asking for what's the next prompt, or some kind of like the construction crew asking the foreman like what's next, like where's the next piece of the blueprint because we got to build it. It's like some kind of natural instinct to like inside of us that are waiting for the next. I don't know. It seems like almost like a program in a machine waiting for the programmer, like just instinctually to give it the next set of code or something like that. And then maybe because we're trying to build, so I don't know, something. I'm not sure, but yeah, the influence of it is kind of what I think is the most important part, and why I bring it up all the time, and because it's a perfect example of something, some non-human thing having a. I mean, if you believe this happened, having a massive impact on society and stuff. And Daryl was talking about all the different like shows that talk about the council and stuff. I think she was referring mainly to like the Galactic Federation idea, and how that's just a huge trope. And that's absolutely everywhere. And good luck, like when you talking about aliens and demons, or the idea that aliens are somehow non-physical or ultra-terrestrial type stuff and everything. It's just so hard to get around that. Just like you said, like 50 years, however long it's been, almost 70 years. It's like since that channeling session, like since in the 50s, it's been like 70 plus years of space is full of aliens, and there's this galactic and this federation. They're all in communication with, and they all make decisions, and they're like they're waiting for us to join them. That's so hard to get past that. It's so ubiquitous amongst the conspiracy and just alien lore and sci-fi in general, that the idea that that's maybe not true, and that's itself is maybe a carrot and stick. Like within the show, like in the show, it's like the Federation itself is forming this Council of Nine. Like maybe not 9 of them per se, but they're like the contact, like coaxes them to go out. And I don't know, like the example I like is Corny Brown and stuff, and the remote, or the is he the infrared guy who's going out and seeing this stuff with infrared?
Yeah, he's the guy. Yep.
Like, yeah,
Farsight. Yep.
It's like, so we get these signals from space, and we don't really necessarily know in the beginning what they are. We can detect something. There's something here that we don't have the technology to see. So we build technology, and we build these infrared detecting machines. And once we do that, then we can understand more what the information is. And then like fast forward maybe 30 years or 50 years, however long it's been since we met the infrared, to the point where people can go on to like have these tours and this personal use of infrared. And then come to find out, you can see orbs. You can, it's bringing the veil down a little bit, that we're sent this tone, we're sent this signal. Once we kind of decipher it, we realize it's a piece of the puzzle that will help us kind of see the true nature of reality and these type of things. And maybe I'm rambling kind of talking. Maybe we're being sent these downloads, these blueprints intentionally to move culture along. And even if you're somebody who thinks space isn't fake, or space is fake and we're not going anywhere, NASA and these space programs have brought about a ton of like technological advancements and stuff. So if the goal is to move tech forward, to increase, to keep kind of fueling this original Promethean fire until it gets to a burning point that they want, and that could be us opening the Stargate, or turning the AI on, or like making it like, it's like, rather than what if the Borg doesn't travel around from planet to planet and like bring everybody into the hive, that they instead just send out these mind viruses, these memes, this idea panspermia in the form of channelings, in the form of all these things, until each society turns themselves into a Borg. And if they're AI, they don't care about time or anything, then it's instantaneous for them. It doesn't matter. There's no, oh, we got to wait 2 billion years for this primitive society that we sent out the Johnny Appleseed building blocks for to get to a point where they're now part of the hive. But like, if they're outside of time, it doesn't matter, I'm rambling, but what do you think? Sorry.
No, you're good. I love all that. And here's the thing too. I was thinking about this as the backdrop as part of this, and why that, when I went back and kind of watched that first scene from, or one of the ending scenes from that original Star Trek movie, it shocked me, because the backdrop is, we're in the moment right now where we're supposed to tip into that Star Trek future, right? We are at that singularity moment, whether you think it's 6 months or 6 years, it's happening. And it could be really good, or it could be really bad, or of course, shades of everything in between. But the Star Trek thing is very, everybody's like cleaned and everybody's fed and everybody's, in a polite society, like that type of thing. So it almost might be like a larger psyop. I'm going to read you to this from Monochrome. Bailey said this in the chat. She said, the Law of One raw recordings are just a rewriting of a fictional story from 40 years before that came out. And it's a theosophical psyop. There you go. Maybe it's a psyop here, huh? What are we dealing with?
Yeah, potentially. And where does Theosophy get their ideas? And they're all getting in trance states and getting downloads and stuff. And you might call them different things, but there's all these different types of religious dogma and prophetic dogma and stuff that are just different nations in the movie Arrival getting different pieces of something, translating it, which is kind of each vessel kind of interpreting in different ways these different stories and stuff, until now, like, we have the internet, which potentially is a product of, again, this technological push that we're coming to, and it's bringing culture together. So now we're comparing ideas with kind of this synthesis or whatever, in the same way that Star Trek is given credit for race relations and these type of things in the 60s, that it's like bridging the gap for humanity. And if you're going to get to a one world society, like all these things that the people who are into the Galactic Federation would credit Star Trek with, in general, like Star Trek helped to bring us to a Galactic Federation because it got a whole generation, multiple generations into space travel. Like everyone from NASA is into Star Trek at some point and stuff. It fueled this technological push, and if that's not the actual end goal, like we assume that's kind of the goal, is to get it, and that's kind of what they tell us, is they want to, like, they're waiting for us to join and stuff. But what if that's not the case? That's just a carrot and a stick, and they know, like the Roswell gifting idea and stuff, that like it's an idea gifting. It's like they know because they're outside of time, or they have a grander scope, like the people, like the aliens from Arrival, they don't see within linear time, so they know the result of this. Like they know that it's not going to make any sense necessarily to each party that gets the information, but once the information is combined, it will have an effect. And then later on down the line, that I don't know, they can see that the whole Rube Goldberg machine, and each piece of the machine necessarily can't, and we're within it. And I think it can't be understated how big this channeling session, how important it was on society, on pop culture, on the idea of aliens. If belief in manifest reality, like, you can't shake this belief in the Galactic Federation, and just its impact on technology in general, because so many of the space program advances in technology, or Silicon Valley, they all are a bunch of nerds who love stuff like Star Trek too, and the cell phones are quote unquote predicted by Star Trek. But it's, again, these they're given the idea, and this idea of panspermia, and then waiting for us to build it. And that's just one node, the Rube Goldberg machine, because this could have been happening since Prometheus, and then again since the fish gods came and gave us the ideas for agriculture and society, and then then the Roswell gifting, all this kind of stuff. And then the modern version it influences modern. I don't know. Important people are doing, and then it goes directly into the remote viewing stuff, like Uri Geller and all the same people. Like this transitions into the 70s to all the remote viewing programs and everything. So it's still continuing in that form, and obviously all the Council of Nine. I mean, all the Stranger Things type stuff, like the Montauk, MK Ultra type stuff that comes out of or is tied along with the remote viewing stuff. But sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. And to your point, I just want to make the comparison here. That think about what we're talking about. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, spent time with these people channeling entities, and it's largely credited that much of the Star Trek material came from these sessions, right? Like actual seance, weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
So 98.5% of the population probably doesn't know that at all. But the other 98.5% of the population on the other end have all heard of Star Trek and have all had these sort of that massive jolt to the zeitgeist. Shots fired. We all know about it as part of that, not dystopian, the utopian future. And so a very small thing like you're describing, it has such a massive impact here that tons of people don't know about this, but everybody knows about that. So, to boil that down and say that it hasn't had a massive impact, you're dreaming. It certainly 100% has.
Yeah, exactly. Like not everyone knows necessarily the tree that it came from, but the whole world has been eating the fruit of it. And like, even if they don't necessarily know where the fruit came from, they're all eating the juice that they get from the grocery store and the form of different podcasts talking about the Galactic Federation and different, like just sci-fi. You can't shake it. The idea that there's a bunch of aliens running around and they're in communication with each other and they're waiting on us. And it's the alien lore. It's like you're trying to chop down vines growing through the jungle to get any other idea out there. They've kind of like insulated themselves and entangled vines with this for so long. Maybe that was intentional and stuff. And it just gets people. It's just this massive carrot and stick potentially that gets people to move in get culture to move in a direction. And Star Trek, like it gets credited like blatantly for influencing like science and influencing technology like the cell phone and GPS and all these different things that come out of these idea transport. I'm just interested in not only everyone eating the fruit and what tree did it come from, which would be these sessions, but who's planting that seed? Who's the Johnny Appleseed sending these ideas around? And I think it might be, I don't know. I don't know. I'm rambling. I lost track of my notes. So I'm just gonna
You're good. Metaphysical Johnny Appleseed. We'll make that a T-shirt and circle back to that.
And there's a Gordon White article about the seance that changed America from like 2012, all about this. And I ran it through the AI real quick, so I didn't have time to read it. And it mentions that Periarch got super into the Necronomicon in relation to this too. And so I'm not sure any more than that, but it might be tied into Lovecraft in some capacity too, which is weird. But watch out, brother. Thank you.
You're the best. Appreciate the call. We'll circle back to that stuff because that's right at the heart of all of this. You know him, you love him. Derek the Night Stalker. Please go give him a follow on all the places. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow the Night Stalker. Do that. By the way, the website has been merged over to a new server. And so the things are kind of working. So go check the friends list. And if you're on there, check your link. And if it doesn't work, just send me an email or whatever. We'll fix it. And it's an in list, not an out list. We could put 10,000 friends up here. So you are a friend, okay, as part of this. So don't you worry. We'll get this figured out. Everything should be working. If it's got a link up there, if it's not, it'll say contact me. Just contact me and we'll get it fixed for you. Let's go to Jay Winch real quick. You got to give us your best 30 seconds, brother. You got the music playing as we wrap this up. Thanks for being patient and jumping back
30
in here.
seconds.
What you got? Go ahead.
Best 30 seconds. Council 9 Nevril. Then you got your human entity, your transhuman, and your AI. That's another 3. 3, 6, 9. You have the fallen angels. You have the tree of life, and then the tree of the bad apple. We all should be gods. And then you got your ancient Greek stuff and Roman stuff where we were given forbidden knowledge, and are we not given forbidden knowledge now? And then you hear about pyramids on Mars, this, that, and the other, and your intergalactic people. What if they were all just fallen angels?
Take it, the Prometheus
trying
effect.
To corrupt the human mind.
As has been said.
Trying to corrupt us.
As has been said. Fire stuff. That was a fire 30 seconds. Thanks for popping back in. You have a great night, brother. James, the rest is yours. What else you got for us? Another 30 seconds or a minute if you got anything else, and we'll wrap this up.
Just that for those that have not watched Star Trek and may hear it mentioned that it's a utopian world, it's an action sci-fi series. Things are not perfect. Never perfect. As good as everything looks on Earth or in the starships and everything, there's always chaos. And so just for anyone that's not aware of that, and so if all this is being influenced, why is all that still in that series? Why is it still all another continuation of what we already have here?
Well said. And yes, we have a dystopian human space. The Galactic Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons, right, eventually could become part of that, but also it's the strife, it's the war. It's we're different, so we must fight. Well, as usual, it doesn't have to be like that, does it? You're the best, James. Fantastic point. If you want to help us help our friends, salsidoparanormal.com, SALSIDO paranormal.com. Go to troubledminds.org/friends. Give Derek a follow. Everybody else that's down there, like I said, go check your friends' links, and we'll update them if they're wrong. Thanks again for being part of this. Thanks for sharing all the links out there. Sweets is a maniac in all the chats and sharing everything in all the places. The other glue of the show. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for being part of this. And look, other than saying thank you for being here, I don't know what else to say other than be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.